it probably took like a solid year of like calling retailers and never getting one phone call ever returned or email back. And, we're just like, do we give up? Do we keep going and everything?
We're all about turning a crappy situation into something positive.
$250,000 of credit card debt.
I still remember the day when no one turned up.
Throw it in the garbage and start from scratch.
I could give myself a chance, so I started something.
I mean, I think that counts as from poop to gold.
Hey guys, welcome back to From Poop to Gold. I'm Daniel Harmon, Chief Creative Officer at Harmon Brothers, and your host, and my special guest today is Josh Felber. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And for some context, for those of you that are watching, we are on his set today doing the podcast with him. We just did one with him earlier, but his podcast is Making Bank.
Right.
You are number 6 on iTunes.
I was in December.
You were in December. That's amazing. Still, we'll take it in December.
A lot of fluctuation here and there.
Sure.
All the time.
And then number 5 in business as well, and that was in January.
Correct.
And then you have over 6 million minutes consumed every month on YouTube.
Yes.
Which that's amazing. And then you're also CMO of Primal Life Organics.
Right.
And did I hear right that you're headed into Walmart with some products?
We are, yeah. We're rolling out in the Walmart
That's
here.
awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Let's talk a little bit about kind of your story.
Sure.
Your backstory. You're obviously an entrepreneur and stuff, and your wife is an entrepreneur as well. Anyway, you want to give our audience a little bit of a taste of that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So I got started as an entrepreneur somewhere around 13. I call that my real entrepreneurship because I had grass cutting businesses and I kind of grew up in a rural area, so baling hay and all those kind of
farm
things.
boy like me.
Yeah, we had horses and everything. But my real entrepreneurial business started right around 14. My dad had bought a Commodore 64, so if you are similar to my age, you'll know what that is.
Yeah.
And
I remember the name. But
I'm 46, so. And I was like, man, they were coming out with this new computer. It was the Commodore Amiga, so it was this real high graphics machine and everything, kind of like what Mac is today back then. And I was like, man, I really want one of those. They were $800. I was like, okay, I only have like $450 saved up. I'm like, there's got to be a better way I can buy this. So like some research, I figured, there's wholesale accounts and distributors and all this. So I called the company, got all set, and you have to like call on a big phone with a long cord and all this stuff, and mail in your application. And so finally I got set up. I was the first Commodore Amiga dealer in my area.
Wow.
And so that's what kind of got it started. And all my friends were like, hey, I really want one of those. I'm like, well, great, I can get you a good deal on it. And so I'd give them a discount, they would buy it. And then my dad and I started going to little like computer users groups, and back then there was these things called floppy disks, and you can store way more on your phone than you could on those back in the day. And so I'd buy those for like 3 cents and sell them for 20 or 30 cents in. And so people would buy like 50 and hundreds of these at a time. And so that kind of what got it all started. And reading Tony Robbins, Unlimited Power, Awaken the Giant, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich when I was 14. That kind of like got all the creative juices and all the entrepreneurial goals and things all set, and just kind of applied that throughout my life, owning 15 different companies since I was 14. Some successful, some not successful, some failures in there and everything. And now today, having Primal Life Organics, which is our health and wellness company and everything. So it's been a fun journey. And my wife over the last, since 2012 has become an entrepreneur as well. She has a whole nursing background, and my 3 kids are all little entrepreneurs and stuff too.
So cool. So also Making Bank. Tell me a little bit about the backstory there.
Sure. So Making Bank was started probably about 4 years ago now. So I'm an introvert. I hate being on camera. Just like
wow.
So like
boy,
me,
you're in for a rude awakening.
me like wanting to like being encouraged to go shoot like a video podcast was at first a little tough. And then and then I got encouraged. Kept wanting to do it. And it was for somebody I knew. They were launching kind of like this video network and everything. Like, oh, come on, we'll help you out with it. So I started doing it with them, and shortly, like after, probably 6 months after, I was getting just as many video views as they were. And so then all of a sudden, they wanted to start charging me for it. I'm like, well, hey, I can go do this on my own. I don't need to pay somebody for it. So I started doing it all on my own, and didn't really know what I was doing, but it was taking me 20 or 30 hours a week, like from the time I would shoot it to editing to getting it
Yeah.
out there and all the content. So quickly, I'm like, man, this has got to either go or I got to figure out a better way. So I created this whole automation sequence to reduce it from 30 hours a week to like 5 hours a week.
Okay, yeah.
And I've kind of always never really worried about that. And then somebody one day, probably like 6 months ago, was like, hey, you need to like show us how you do it and create a whole course. So we're launching a course here shortly that teaches you how to automate your podcast and cut it from 20 hours a week to 5 hours a week.
Obviously, the theme of this podcast is from poop to gold,
Sure.
right? And so we always ask a question about a time in your career when you ran into a really crappy situation and you were able to turn it into something great or something positive.
Sure.
Do you have an example of that you could
There's
share?
probably a few of those.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. So one of the companies that I used to own part of was called Slim Mint. So we came up with these Altoids style type that had natural weight loss ingredients in it.
Okay.
And so I'd never gone into retail or anything like that. And so my job was to get these in retail. And so like it was calling these retailers day after day, sending them emails. And this was 2002, 2000.
Okay. Yeah, a little while ago.
2003, right in there. So way back when the internet was early and everything. And we were selling them using like PayPal off of like a one-page website and everything. And so it probably took like a solid year of like calling retailers and never getting one phone call ever returned or email back. And, you know, we're just like, do we give up? Do we keep going and everything? And just kept making the calls, and finally we got a call back from a retailer like, hey, we'd love to meet with you. And so it just took that one meeting set up to now all of a sudden we started getting more phone calls returned, more emails back. We started going to trade shows, getting in front of retailers. And then in 2005, end of 2005, we ended up selling the company to another supplement company that bought us. But we ended up getting in over 45,000 retail stores. So we were in Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, pretty much anybody you can name out there.
Yeah.
And it grew into a pretty quick brand after that.
Wow.
So
a full year before you got a call back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So do you think during that process that you were able to kind of modify your pitch and your message over time a lot?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
I mean, it's not like I had never done direct sales or anything before, but
right.
it's just totally different. You don't know who the buyers are half the time.
Yeah.
You know, they're always switching, and you're calling in, so you're getting multiple screened before you even can get to who the buyer is.
Yeah.
And so then, you know, we had to be creative and just trying to dig out and find out who it is, try to find other buyers who can kind of like get at that buyer's name. And once you kind of have it, then you can start sending them. We would send them FedEx packages every week with our samples. We would send them emails every week. We would phone call them every week. And
every angle you could.
Every angle. So we kind of had multiple attack points to try to get in front of them.
And then you get the first domino to fall.
Right.
And then it's the matter of just building the momentum after that.
After that, for sure.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So talk to me a little bit about kind of your creative process as like an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Like what are what helps your creative juices flow?
Man, for me, it's weird. So I'm an INTJ, so kind of that Myers-Briggs.
Okay.
So it's kind of like I guess somebody was telling me the other day, it's like the mastermind of thing, like type person and everything, and they're like, oh yeah, you do your best creative thinking when you're in the shower, or when you're working out, and it comes to you in those weird times. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is. And so for me, I could be going out for a run, I could be in the middle of working out, or jumping in the shower. All of a sudden, like that, it hits you, like, oh wait, this is what we could do here. Boom, 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 and then all of a sudden, like this whole plan just domino effects and folds out and everything. Yeah. And so it's like, all right, I gotta remember it. Gotta go over, get to my recorder, try to record it real quick, or type notes in my phone really fast. So like when I run or something, if it comes up, I'll just if I have my phone in my pocket, I'll just quickly pull it out and do like a voice memo or something and try to capture some of those ideas and everything.
I'm very similar where I've noticed the pattern is when my mind has an opportunity to take a break from the idea and just basically not be obligated to think about it.
Sure.
Then that's all of a sudden when that flow comes. And so the same thing in the shower, I actually have on Amazon, you can buy these shower notes
What?
that you can stick to. No, seriously.
Really?
Yeah, that you can stick to the side, like
Okay.
stick it on the tile.
Right.
It's got the suction cups and stuff, but it's a paper that doesn't go gross and stuff in the shower, and then it's got a pencil and stuff
Shower
with
notes.
it. Yeah, I think it's called shower. Anyway, if you just
Google it,
yeah,
yeah.
if you Google it, and then you can
That's
literally
awesome.
just write it right then, so
Yeah.
you can capture it. Anyway,
Super cool.
I got that actually from one of our comedian writers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
That's
feel
great.
free to run with that
Yeah.
one. But yeah, so for you, it's all about giving your mind an opportunity to take a break.
Definitely, yeah, because
Okay.
it's always engaged all the time with different stuff and trying to move things and find the best way to strategically position things. And so, yeah, giving it that break will help it pick up that flow.
Let me ask you this: 3 tips you would give for people trying to build a podcast. Like, what are
Oh, wow.
3
That's
keys
great.
to success for you?
3 keys to success.
For building up, making bank.
So for me, one was I didn't really care if people listened or not.
Okay.
I did it, and I followed a consistent schedule. So every
Okay.
week, I always put out a new show. Every week, I never even looked. Probably for years, I never even looked if somebody listened or watched.
Wow.
And so it was just more about the process, enjoying the process,
Okay.
enjoying connecting with the guests and learning.
Okay,
and
yeah.
I would learn.
I love that aspect
way
too.
more. Yeah,
Yeah.
way more than okay, cool. Wait, I had 5 people listen, or I had 100 people listen, or I had 10,000 downloads.
Yeah.
I never really cared.
Yeah.
So finally one day, I was like, oh, well, let me just go to my YouTube channel, and I'm like, oh. Or I think it was YouTube sent me an email when you hit a certain thing, they're like, hey, you've had this many minutes consumed last month. And I'm like, what? Is that right? So in the back, I'm like, wait, people are listening. Okay, I guess I got to be a little bit more real about this. Not that I wasn't. It was just, so one.
It's like dating. You play hard to get, and then
Yeah,
I don't care.
Maybe that's what it was.
I don't care what the views are. And then
I don't
people
know if you
just
care to go
flock.
out with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so I would just do it for love. Do it for the love of what it is. Whether it's you learning the information, whether it's you connecting and networking with those people.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they say, don't care about the views and the likes and the comments, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Use it as a tool to improve your content.
Yeah.
But not oh man, I feel bad because I only got 3 likes today, or
Yeah.
whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So I would say would be number 1. 2, definitely figure out a way to streamline the process.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that are starting podcasts. It's and it's being that's the thing now. Start a podcast.
Yeah.
Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it hey, voice.
Yep.
That's where it's going. And
Number 2 enables number 1, right?
Correct.
You got to get the regular content out there.
Right.
That you just like and like that process. And number 2, get a process down.
A
that
process
will enable
down.
you to do
Yep.
number 1. Okay.
And so mine
Cool.
was just figuring out how I could cut that time frame from that 20 to 30 hours a week to as low as possible, so 5 to 7 hours a week. So
Okay.
I wasn't heavy lifting all along the journey.
Okay.
And then the third would be, I think for me too, is just part of it. So I don't have set questions.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of other hosts do and things like that. But
What are you saying about me, Josh?
no, so for me, it's more kind of like I started out like that,
Yeah.
but then man, I really kind of like the natural flow, because if I'm set in these 5 questions throughout the whole thing, but you said something amazing that didn't fit in those 5 questions, and I want to go down that path,
Yeah, you
it
bet.
kind of keeps me constrained. And I think for some people it's good, and you have to figure out what style works best for you. But for me, it was allowing kind of more of that natural conversation,
Yeah, I love
and
it.
then what those interests that peaked throughout that conversation, and then kind of head down that path.
Yeah.
So
that's
those
fun.
were the 3 big things I think that worked for me really well.
That's awesome. Love it. So let's shift gears for a second and talk a little bit about networking. You're obviously connected
Sure.
with a lot of great people. What's your approach to networking?
Right.
Yeah. What's your mentality towards that? Because you have a lot of great connections as we talked about. But yeah, any tips that you have there?
So for me, I guess the big thing for me, and I think I applied it to my life when I was little, was relentless, and I don't have that fear of. I'm not
Okay.
worried about oh, should I reach out to this person
Okay.
or whatever. I've never had that. I mean,
The fear of rejection
fear
isn't
of
there.
rejection. Yeah, I don't have that, and I
Right.
don't know if I.
Which is why you
just
went
got-
for a year without closing a deal.
Yeah, and
It's
still
amazing.
stuck around.
And still stuck around and made it work. Okay.
Right.
cool.
And I think that too is what's always provided the drive behind the different entrepreneur ventures. Because I've never gone to an entrepreneurship or a business that I've owned and been like, man, is this gonna not succeed, or am I going to fail, or when challenges come up, I don't actually even see that. It's not in my
compute.
view. Yeah, it doesn't compute. So
That's awesome.
When I've networked and reached out to people, I'll find a way and direct message them, whether it's online, and especially initially when I was launching the podcast, I didn't worry about it. I just reached out like, hey, got this, think you'd be an amazing guest on it. Here's how you could help all these people. That was always my approach. What they could do to help all these people. And I mean, I've not had one person really say no, other than 2 different people I've requested. It wasn't the right timing. They weren't shooting interviews that year and that kind of a thing. But I'll circle them back with them this year to get them on and all that. That's great. I would say not worrying about rejection, figuring out what, a lot of people want to help other people. And they want to provide value for other people. So if you cannot make it about you and figure out what that person has and how they can help other people, so meaning your audience or whoever that may be, it resonates with a lot of people, and they're like, oh man, this is amazing. Here's how I can really help them succeed or help these other people succeed. And it really makes that connection, I think, internally with them and everything overall. So
I love that. I love that just as a core principle. Just in general, life is so much better when you're outwardly focused rather than inward, right? And it's not all about you. It's not all about me, right? It's about other people around us, and it's such an indirect way of getting happiness, but it's just a true principle, right?
Sure. Oh yeah.
So talk to me, if you can, about anything cool coming up that you are super excited about.
Man, anything cool. So, I mean, there's always a lot of cool stuff, but so my kids, one of the cool things with my kids is they've all become entrepreneurs. One of the things that we decided to do when they were really young is always integrate them in. So not trying to find balance in life is, so when you try to find balance, you're always kind of teetering. So one thing's always going to get more than the other at some point. So we thought, okay, well, how can we integrate them in everything that we do? Whether they want to be entrepreneurs someday or not, whether they want to be doctors or lawyers, whatever, that doesn't really matter. But integrating them in so they're part of what we do and can enjoy the process and the experience. And it's been really cool because, I mean, my daughter started her company called Paleo Pets, so she makes all natural pet care products. She's only 10, but sells them all direct to consumer off of her website.
Wow.
My boys are 8, they're twins, and they're starting a natural gum company.
That's
like the only natural gum that doesn't have sugars and all this other crap in it. And they've got to meet, took my one son to meet Gary Vaynerchuk a few months back, and hang out with him in New York when we went to New York and stuff, and another one to another mastermind, and he got to meet all these people. So I think it's just super cool to be able to find and figure out ways to integrate your family and what you're doing every day to, whether it's your business, whether it's just, having that time to connect with them and everything, and, helping them see a bigger vision and a bigger picture than just, at home with their friends or whatever it may be. And we homeschool all of our kids.
I was going to say, if they're doing all this stuff, they sound like they're homeschooled kids.
They are.
I homeschool my kids.
Oh, do you? Okay. Yeah, So, and people always say, well, are they personable and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you wouldn't even know. They are so outgoing. They'll roll up. And my one son, when we were at an event in October, Genius Network, he was walking around and found ClickFunnels. They had these socks, these free socks. So he'd walk up, grab a box of 6 for free, and start selling these at $10 a pair. He made almost $400 in 48 hours at this event. He's only 8
that's
out
amazing.
of the blue. And so it's
who's
super
going to
cool.
say no to a kid? It's like $10 for a pair of socks.
Yeah, that's right. Selling stuff. So
yeah, that's so awesome.
So just providing that encouragement, getting them out of their normal everyday environments, and doing some really cool stuff.
That's really great.
From a personal side, from a business side, our health and wellness company, Prime Life Organics, we're launching into retail this year. We're rolling out to Walmart, Whole Foods, Sprouts, and everything in 2019 here. And
that's awesome.
With our
that's a big breakthrough.
Tooth powder and
Whole
everything.
Foods, Sprouts, Walmart, all that. That's awesome.
So
that's great. I love what you're doing with your kids. I've actually told my kids, I've said, so any of the stuff that we buy at Costco, that's hundreds and hundreds. It's over $1,000 a month. I have 6 kids that we're paying towards groceries. I'm like, I'd much rather that money go to you.
Sure.
And so I've said, if you can make bread, I will pay you for the bread, the same price that I pay Costco.
Yes.
But then you will have a skill and you'll be doing it yourself, and they're going for it. And so they're learning to make natural for like sourdough or fermented
That's awesome.
bread.
And it's probably way better too than Costco bread.
Well, we're gonna get there.
Once they get the
I'll
right
leave it
recipe
there.
figured out, it's like.
But anyway, so I love that you're getting your kids involved in entrepreneurship, and that's one of the main things I'm like, I've got to teach my kids to be editors, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's just a really great skill
to have.
as a filmmaker. But where should our audience look you up? Where should they follow you?
Yeah, definitely. So joshfelber.com is
Okay.
my main site. You can access Making Bank from there. I'm pretty active on Instagram, Josh Felber, at Facebook, same thing, Twitter and everything. So any of those social platforms, and primallifeorganics.com is our health and wellness company. So.
Awesome. Okay, I've got a gift for you for coming on our podcast here.
Awesome.
This is a copy of our book, From Poop to Gold. But then
Super
there's
cool.
also these Unicorn Gold from Squatty Potty, which is a toilet spray. And then there's Taos.
Oh yeah,
Bakes.
these are awesome.
This is a new a client of ours. That
Oh
we
really?
Have, yeah.
Yeah, I
campaign
love their
coming up
bars.
for.
Yeah,
So,
super cool. Thank you very
thank you
much.
so
I
much for
appreciate
coming
it.
on.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys for listening. Be sure to follow, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on the next one.